Hello BookTube! I'm here today to do the Philosophers and Psychologists book tag. Now, I was tagged to do this by Miriam, who runs the book blog Between Lines in Life, and she tagged me over a year ago, so I'm very sorry that it has taken me so long. But it is an amazing tag, so I swore I was going to get to it, and now I really am. So I will leave a link to her blog down in the description box, and you should definitely go check her out. Now, the first question, Plato, the big one, everyone knows him, everyone loves him. Which popular book is one of your favorites? And for that, I went with All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. Now, this book I was convinced to read by my sister. It was incredibly popular last year and still is incredibly popular, and honestly, I was expecting it to be a bit overhyped. I don't know what's going on, but there's a lot of new releases in fiction that are just about World War II. I really have no idea why this is. If you have a theory about it, let me know. But I wasn't expecting to like it, and I really did enjoy it. I ended up giving it 5 stars, which I was not expecting to do, because normally when a book is kind of YA and it has kind of dramatic title, I normally think it's not for me, but the prose was beautiful, the plot was unexpected but not forced, and it was a really beautiful book. Number 2, Socrates. He was so passionate about the things he taught, but in the end he had to die because of them. Name your favorite tragic hero. And for that I went with Antigone, which was a character in a play by Sophocles. Antigone was a woman whose brother had died as a criminal, and the regular procedure was for him to not receive a proper burial and to let his body rot. And she fought the system and did everything she possibly could and risked everything, her reputation and her wealth, in order to ensure that her brother was buried. Now, number 3, Carl Rogers. He was famous for his very client-focused humanistic approach. What's one of your favorite character-driven books? This is not, there's not much of an action-packed plot, but more of a character study in there. And for that, I went with Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Again, it's Victorian, so it can't be super plot-driven, but I really did enjoy Jane Eyre because it's more of, we get to be kind of a fly on the wall of her life, and we really do get to see her grow from being a little orphan girl into a courageous adult woman. But I'm going to pick a second book for this because, you know what? It's my channel, I can do what I want to. And for that, I'm going to go with Christian Lavensdatter, but particularly the second book in the series. The first book was not plot-driven at all, and it honestly, started to bore me. But the second book, which is called Mistress of Huseby, we really start to see the characters coming into their own, and the characters are... their emotions start to become very complex as the pain that they experienced from the first book really begins to hit them, and it really causes a strain in their relationships with other characters. Number 4, Howard Gardner, a psychologist of the newer generation, a recently discovered new favorite. For that, I went with Animal Dreams by Barbara Kingsolver. This is about a woman who dropped out of medical school and is returning to her hometown, where she has a strained relationship with her father. Now, some books, they just come into your life at exactly the right moment, and that was this book for me. It's not perfect, and it's not going to go down in history, but I absolutely love it, and I identified with basically everyone in it. Number 5, Slavoj Zizek, a philosopher who opens your mind and makes you rethink everything you knew before. Which book introduced you to a different opinion on a topic you thought you already knew everything about? And for that, I went with Enough, Why the World's Poorest Starve in an Age of Plenty. And it's by Roger Thoreau. I did not think I knew everything about, food aid and starvation in agriculture, but I thought I knew enough. Pun not intended. But I did, reading that book really opened my eyes into how U.S. food aid was really actually very corrupt during this time. For example, the reason why we distributed food aid was because when American farmers wouldn't sell all of their crops, specifically corn, the government would buy off the residue, and they would then deposit that into third world countries as food aid. And that would, again, if you know like anything about economics, that would swamp out all of the farmers from that market, and they would lose their farms, lose everything. And so because of that, though, next season rolls around and the farmers aren't there to produce food, and that causes a gap in the market, and there are more people than there are farmers to feed them. And so they become reliant upon American food aid, and that means that American farmers are basically receiving this surplus income. So it really was a selfish process. And this really kind of made me go down the rabbit hole of learning about agriculture and economics, and and it really has made me rethink everything. Number 6, Simone de Beauvoir. Not just the woman at the side of Sartre, a great, strong female character that people often overlook because of the man at her side. And for that, I went with Vika from the book City of Thieves by David Benioff. She is basically this super badass female sniper. She is living in this man's world, but she is an absolute survivor. She survives multiple POW camps, and she's a member of the Soviet secret police, and she saves the protagonist's life several times, but before the war, she was studying astrophysics in college, so she's super cool, and she was a lot more interesting than the main character. I think the author should write a prequel to the book that is just about her, honestly. Number 7, Sigmund Freud, who is Miriam's favorite, the founder of Psychoanalysts, a book that sparked your interest on a new topic you weren't into before. For that, I went with Lone Survivor by Marcus Luttrell, and that started my morbid fascination with Navy SEALs for most of my time in middle school and early high school. Number 8, Carl Jung, who is Swiss like Miriam. The man behind the archetypes of the collective unconscious. What are your staples of a good book? What has to be in a good book to become your favorite? Now, I hate super plot-driven books with tons of twists, things like thrillers. For me, my favorite books almost have no plot, things that a lot of other readers consider boring. But I really like when the narrative is when the narrative includes the landscape almost as if it were a secondary character. Things like Independent People by Haldor Laxness, The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck, where the environment has such an impact upon the characters' lives, and there's so many descriptions about the land and the plants and the animals. And I also like when it takes place over a widespread period of time. Number 9, Lao Tzu, the star of Chinese philosophy. What is my favorite translated work? And again, Independent People by Haldor Laxness, which is an Icelandic work of translated fiction. And Haldor Laxness won the Nobel Prize for Literature. I like to throw that out there. Number 10, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, highly influenced the world of the wonderful period of the Enlightenment. What is your favorite book that promotes critical thinking? And for that, I went with Thinking and Systems, a Primer by Donna H. Meadows. Now, this book is absolutely fundamental to anyone who thinks ecologically or economically or scientifically. It completely rechanged my worldview, and it has stuck with me for years. And honestly, probably 35% of my intelligence is due to this book. So I cannot promote it enough. It's all about not necessarily thinking harder about facts, but it's about rewiring the way that you think of things. And I need to reread it. Anyways, so I will include the list of all the descriptions. I will include the list of all of the books in the description below. Let me know if you have read any of these, and I'm not going to tag anyone because basically everyone did this tag a year ago, but Yes, I will see you all next time. Doei!